world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow decoders around the world, wherever you may be, my name is Logan, your tour guide, and this is Decode Your Reality, and today we're gonna be breaking down and decoding the mushroom. This will be mushroom Decoded. I have a lot going on here. Fans of psilocybin, fans of DMT, whatever your flavor is. This is going to have some of that sprinkled in there, but it's not what you think. I really get started with this decode by watching Oppenheimer, the movie. And I saw some things in the movie. I haven't even got all the way through it. I saw some things in the movie, and so when I was pulling up information to decode this is the video that I got, which you saw in the beginning of this presentation. And this is the one that that got me, because this thing pulled for me, and I'm going to show you what it is all about. And he was quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, which was chapter 11, verses 32. And there's many different interpretations of this, which is, I become death, I am mighty time, the source of destruction to annihilate the worlds. So many different interpretations. And then you have the Trinity test, the nuclear test, which is what he was part of, the Manhattan Project. It could go on and on and on. I'm going to show you the astrological map of this. There's so much more that I could have done with this. I could have decoded Kenneth, who is the man who was assigned to do this whole experiment and all that stuff, and his life being coded, being born on the 27th. Folks, it's just so much. It's just, there's no way that I could ever get all of this together. But I'm going to do my best for this presentation. Mushroom Decoded. So as I often say, put on a pair of headphones, block out the outside world. This one's going to be another gem, I promise. So when you go read about the Trinity test, and you see that it was 25 kilotons of TNT. 25, and 25 is tied to the black sun. Black sun is 25. 25 is tied to the queen. Queen bee. We're going to get into that. But 25 kilotons of TNT. TNT being a 13. In the Chaldean numerology exclusively being used for this presentation. Coming through once again to show you what its expressions are for the source code being the code that runs the final product that we end up labeling and, this and that. But here it is, the 13, and it's death, which is, it's interesting because he says, now I become death. You watched it. Now I become death. And it was 25 kilotons of TNT. How big is that 13? It's huge. Tied to the Stargate above our heads, the great beast above. The 12 disciples and Jesus in the middle, the 13. That's why Jesus is tied to Shiva. And Shiva is tied to death. And if you've been paying attention, you've watched the Mandelbrot set, and you would have seen, and of course the black sun decoded. It was the W at the bottom, and its mirror opposite the M at the top, and the M is the 13th letter. So the final expression of the atomic explosion from this W, it goes up and you now have the mushroom cloud, and even the what does the word mushroom start off with? The letter M. And it's the mirror of the W. The W is the 23rd letter, the M is the 13th letter. You just switch the 1 to the 2. Is there any significance to that? Absolutely there is. Again, this is tied to the black sun. The AIX, as Jason Breshears from Archaics calls it. That's what it's linked to. So now I become death. And what does it mean to have a nuclear explosion on the world stage? Well, it's just, there's fractals to this. And this creates life. And I'm gonna show you all that. So, Mushroom Decoded, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to start off with some numerology and alchemy. We call this alchemology. This is one layer of it. And how coincidental is this? That the word mushroom is 38 and the 38th element on the periodic table has a picture of a frickin' mushroom cloud. Coincidence? Or maybe, just maybe, the Chaldean numerology once again shines through as the top dog cipher? Because you can clearly... Now, is it the only cipher that you can connect to alchemy? No. But clearly this is a humdinger right here. This is a huge humdinger. Notice that it's 87.62 and the Trinity test, as I'm decoding this, happened 78 years ago, which is a mirror of the 87. How about that? Coincidence? No. See, I'm into this code is in tune with me. I'm in tune with the code. And so are you as you're watching this. And what is this 38? Well, remember, the 8 and the 3 represent the I am. The 3 is a broken 8. And if you've been paying attention, the I am through the alchemical elements, iodine and americium, 53 and 95, those digits in the string of the golden ratio can be found at digit number, the 53rd digit is 8 and the 95th digit is 3, if you've been paying attention to this stuff here. So what does this whole thing mean? Well, a fractal down in the biology of the body is sex. It's the orgasm. That's how every single one of you listening to this presentation got here. Your dad, your father had an orgasm. Maybe your mom did too. But it was essential that your father have an orgasm. And of course, that looks like a phallus, does it not? Of course it does. This is how ridiculously, comically induced this whole reality is. And when the orgasm happened, the sperm fertilized the egg, and you have a birthday 280 or so days later, and now you're a product of duality. See how all this stuff works? It's just so fascinating, and this is what it looks like. And, you know, when we extend upon numerology and get into alchemy, alchemology, taking numerology and bringing it into alchemy, you can see how it shines through to tell us a deeper meaning of this reality, the source code playing out. The 20th element on the periodic table is called calcium. And calcium, this is its most abundant isotope. It has 5 stable isotopes, 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses, but it's isotope 40. And now, just like that, we can go right back to numerology, and you could see where Christoph and the Truman Show, at the very end of the Truman Show movie, you're on television. That's right, because once you are born into this world, you are being watched. And your birthday turns into duality, and your duality turns into a skeletal structure. 99% of the calcium is found in the bones and teeth. And just like that, we have a skeletal structure, and now we become a character on the playing board. It's so very fascinating. The mushroom, tied to the phallus, the penis, and the orgasm. And you pop out as a child of duality, and you have a birthday, and now you're on television. That's how all this stuff looks. And it's all about power. That's what we're going to get into here. We're going to get into power. because that's what this whole thing starts with, is the O, the 0. If you're into numbers, it's going to be the 0. If you're into letters, it's going to be the letter O. Power, which is one of the 5 vowels. A-E-I-O-U. 5 vowels. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. The O is what we start with. And then we break the O. You see? And now we have the power button. You will find this button on many electronics, maybe on your computer primarily, or one of your electronic gadgets, because the O has to be broken. See, inside this O is all the energy. That's why the egg and the orgasm and the testes, it's all round. Everything's inside here. The cell, and then you have to break it. And then the power gets released. And of course, this would represent the phallus, or the energy at least being expressed and being released. So it would look like this right here. And I've got it moved about 145 degrees or 100, I can't remember how many degrees it was, to form the letter Q. This is where you're going to get the Q movement. The Q movement will fit in here, of course, which I don't follow. But why the letter Q? And the O ends up becoming the Q in its fullest expression without it being tampered with. And how is this tied to the Mushroom Club? Because it's tied to power. And the Trinity test and the nuclear explosion, power. So the O in Chaldean is the 7th number, and the Q becomes the number 1, because there's the number 1 right there. It's a broken O. It's a broken O. That's what the Q is. And when you bring these together, you have the number 71, and 71 is the 20th prime number, and 20 is where you're going to get the orgasm, where you get a birthday after you're born into duality and you're on television. You see how all this stuff works? So this is the containment of the power. This is the release of the power. You push the button on your computer, and what happens? Your computer, your electronic device receives power, and now it's running. Now it works the operating system, and now it becomes the number 1. The word 1 equals 17. Q is the 17th letter. But it's the 71, and 71 is the 20th prime number. See how magical this is? So the O and the broken O, the Q, become the 71, and they become the 20 tied to the prime numbers, and 20 is tied to you having an orgasm and birth. Well, not you, but your father having an orgasm and delivering itself, the sperm, to fertilize the egg, which in this case, you end up having a birthday through duality when you pop out into this world, and now just like that, you're a bag of bones and you're on television. You see how amazing this is? And it's all derived from this O. So we're going to go deeper into this O, and I'm going to show you how it's tied into the nuclear explosion and Oppenheimer and the nuclear testing and the Trinity test and the whole shebang. So when we go to the English A through Z, to give you another layer of this and how it looks, 1 is A, 2 is B, all the way to Z being 26. The O is the 15th letter. And the Q, the broken O, is just 2 digits past that. It's the 17th letter. And I just will remind you that the number 1 is the 17th letter. The number 1 is the number 17. Just to remind you. Okay? So that's what that looks like, and why I showed you that, because of this. See, in Chaldean, how strong Chaldean is? The 1 is 17, and then the 17th letter is the letter Q. So we get the 15, and we get the 17. We get the full containment of the power, and then we get the deliverance of power as we break the full containment of power. And it's the 15 and 17. And we bring the tarot in to get the picture. This is how amazing it looks. We then now bring in the devil card. So the devil, this is why they say like, oh, the devil, Satan, this is Satan's world. Well, it's God. Because you see, the desire is all inside this O. The perfect circle, which even represents Earth. Everything's inside here, but you got to release it. So in order to release it, you got to have an orgasm, and you got to press the button for the power to be delivered to your computer so you can start looking at your computer or turn your phone on, the power button on your phone. You see, and now the devil's released. And when the devil gets released, the star is born. You see? The star is born. This is the 17th card in the deck, and the letter Q is the 17th letter. How about that? It's so fascinating. And when you bring the number 15 and 17 together, you get 32. And now you get the game master. So the game master, through this expression, is the devil and the star, which is why I've been saying, be the best little devil you can be. Because you are the star. You are being manifested through power from the origins of power itself. That's why origin starts with the letter O. An orgasm. You have an orgasm, you end up having sperm released, which fertilizes the egg. And when it fertilizes the egg, out pops the star. And now you're a player on the board, and you are now expressing power. This would be, and this is the I am. That's how deep this code goes. You just got to have the eyes to see the symbols. We can even say this is the letter C and the letter I, which is going to be 39. And we could go into different topics. The word computer equals 39, which is what I think we live in anyway, but the game master, 32. Okay, so this is what this looks like. And you see, the funny part about all of this is this really interesting word called ejaculation. And all of you more than likely have experienced ejaculation. The word ejaculation starts with the letter E. And E is the number 5. And the number 5 is 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. This origin, the letter E, goes all the way back to symbols which will end up representing a human figure. It will represent a stick figure. If you go research this, all the way back as far as you can go, the letter E is a stick figure which represents man or woman. The 5. Okay? And that's how you got here. You and I all got here because your dad ejaculated. Okay? Let's just be real honest and transparent here. Ejaculation is how you got here, is the very reason why you're watching this presentation. And this is the connecting point, and how amazing this methodology is that ejaculation is 37, and chlorine, one of the stable isotopes of chlorine, is 37. And its protons is 17, which is the star card. And we go right back to the origin, and the letter Q, which is the breaking point of the power. It breaks open the O or the 0, and now it becomes a star. The 17 is the star card. Do you see how magical this is? All because your dad busted a nut. Okay? That's how we just need to be funny about this, because that's just, I'm being funny, but at the same time, I'm being absolutely transparent and raw with all of this, because that's what this whole thing looks like. And I will remind you that the word queen starts with the letter Q, because this reality is based on the feminine principle. The queen, not the king, the queen. You women, I can't procreate as a dude. You women can. You have all the power. And it is all servicing the queen. You see, the queen delivers the power, just like women deliver the children. They deliver the stars. That's how we all got here, by our mothers who are the queens. Now, yes, the male had to ejaculate inside the queen to impregnate her, so out pops the star. Absolutely. But let's make no mistake about it, the queen and the queen bee is what runs the hive, not the king and the masculine. But it is a necessary component for the expression of power. And this is all orgasm, folks. This is all representing the orgasm. This represents the orgasm. Okay? Right here. Okay? You females. So the earth and the female experience delivers to the world the players on the world stage, including all of the trees and the leaves. This is all feminine energy, not masculine. Okay? All feminine energy, not masculine. So that's how we started this thing off. So now we get into the actual Trinity and Oppenheimer and the mushroom. Of course, again, the penis, the phallus, looks like a mushroom. And you have the pressing of the power button and boom, you have this explosion. The origin of the explosion is here. This is the final product of the explosion. And this right here is the Tesla symbol. There's so many symbols that you can look at that will be in this context. Lucifer sigil will be in there. I could go on and on and on. So this is what it looks like, and how I found this, or how it found me, is through the power button. And the power button, this is the typical power button, but all you have to do is turn it a certain amount of degrees and you move it, and just like that, now we have the letter Q. And it's really interesting because it's right around the 5 o'clock position, the letter Q. Right around the 5 o'clock position. Remember what the number 5 is. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. This is how deep this code goes. So you get created by pressing the power button, by having an orgasm, by fertilizing the egg, and out you pop, having a birthday, in duality, and it's the 5. It's the 5. And I would just remind you that the word 5 is a 20. Right here. 20. Just like the word duality. 20. Okay? 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. And this Q is right around the 5 o'clock marker. Right there. It's not 6 o'clock. It's right around the 5 o'clock marker. Not by accident. Okay? This is how beautifully orchestrated this source code is. So I'm going to be using a different methodology here and introducing the capital letter cipher. This is normally known as the Francis Bacon cipher, which is where you go to the capital letters from 27 to 52. So 1 through 26 are the lowercase, 27 through 52 are the uppercase. I like to call this the capital letter cipher to give it a very individualistic distinguishment here. So the Q is the 43rd letter in the capital letter cipher. So it's going to be 17 in the lowercase, 43 in the uppercase. And it is the power button, folks. Make no mistake about it. This is where you're going to get the Q movement from. So where are we going to go with this 43? Right to the Trinity test. We're going to start right here with the Trinity test. And we're going to go back to the beginning part of this presentation where you watched this short video, this one being 53 seconds, from Robert Oppenheimer talking about the nuclear explosion and referencing the Bhagavad Gita 11 verses 32. And this video, again, found me. This is the one that I was just online. I didn't cherry pick this. It chose me. I found the interview, I started watching it, and then I started to break down the timelines like I have done so many times. And I circled right here exactly when he opens up his mouth and starts to say, "Now I become death," from this short little interview. And it was at 43 seconds out of a total of 53 seconds when he says, "Now I become death." And I will leave this link in the description so you can go fact check it for yourself. So you can see for yourself that this is exactly what I'm saying about these timestamps. And the 43, if you start to look a little bit deeper, will not only be tied to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verses 32, where it talks about, I am time, I am the great destroyer of worlds. There's a many different references of this, but it becomes, now I become death. But ladies and gentlemen, when you bring this and you add up the chapter and verse of the Bhagavad Gita, of what he is referencing, you get the number 43. How about that? Now, when you got to be an observer of this code to look at it as a decoder. Because a lot of people will say, well, you just cherry picked this video, or folks, this is the video that found me. And is it coincidental that he says, now I become death, and referencing 11 verses 32, and that becomes the 43, and it was exactly at 43 seconds of this particular video that chose me to show you the source code? So where are we going to go with this 43? If you watch the black hole sun, you would have seen the tip 43 is tied to technetium, and it's going to be tied to tungsten and the great W, the big W, wolfram. That's for a different story. You've been paying attention, but I will remind all of you, now I become death, because the explosion of the Trinity test, this explosion was pressing the button, releasing the power, releasing it. Now I become death. See, all the power was in here, and now the orgasm happens when you press that button and you release it. And the 43 was the marker when he says, now I become death. Right there, the 43. And this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verses 32, which equals the number 43, which is the 43rd letter in the capital letter cipher, which is the release of power, which can become death, which is what he says. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to go deeper with this. To cement this source code ruling over our world, using Oppenheimer as a tool, just like you. 43 is not just any number, it's the 14th prime number. And 14 is the word time. Look at this. The Godhead, the supreme personality of the Godhead through the Bhagavad Gita, time, I am time, the great destroyer of the worlds. That's why Kronos is the timekeeper in this aspect. But there's many more layers to it than just that. But you can see how significant this code is and how it is undoubted here. Like, there's no room for like, well, maybe. No, folks, this is it. This is what the code wants to show you. These people, myself, you, were all being used as instruments in this reality. And it ain't a bad gig once you figure out what your code is. And then own it instead of running away from it. Okay? And you can see how time is God. Okay? Which, 14 is a 5. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. How big is that 5? When you go to that Q, 5 o'clock. That's how I see it. You may not see it at 5 o'clock. I do. 5. 5. 5. The great destroyer of worlds, tied to Satan. Absolutely, because Satan is time. Over time, you will make you call mistakes. You will do what you call sinning. Oh, I missed that. I didn't get that right. Well, you weren't supposed to. Or you're going to say, I want this, I want that. I am this, I am that. This is all desire and duality. And your birthday is tied to the orgasm, and the orgasm is tied to the Trinity test, which is a fractal above, and the explosion is in essence of the orgasm, which is how we all got here. And you become a little devil down here. And that's the way it is. And you become part of the Godhead, because you end up becoming the Godhead. It's your reality. You're the star of the show. And you're experiencing this reality because you're supposed to be experiencing it as an instrument. Okay? So this is what the point I wanted to get across to all of you is God is the great timekeeper. This is why Chronos is seen as eating its children, because that's what it does. In essence, you get eaten, you get used, you get thrown away, you get chewed out and spit out. Okay? The great destroyer of worlds is time. That's it. It's the Akashic records. It's time. And you can see that it's the Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verses 32. And it's the game master. Remember what the 32 was? It's the O and the Q, letter 15 and letter 17. It's power and the release of power. And you get the 32, which is the word Capricorn equals 32. The word California, like Hotel California, is a 32. Game master, which is the 6 of diamonds card, right? The game master card. And you'll notice that these all reduce down to the number 5. 5, 5, 5, 5. 5. Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verses 32, it reduces down to a number 5. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. And this 5 is very, very big. The precursor to the 5, or the predecessor to the 5, is the 14. And again, symbolically, what does this look like? Well, are you ready to have your mind blown? When you bring the 1 and the 4 together, it forms the letter H. See that? That's how precise this code is. And when you look at it, you start to bring and reverse and mirror, and you got to play around with it. The code is doing this. I'm not doing it. I was shown to show you this. And it forms the letter H. The letter H is the 8th letter in the alphabet A through Z. There's also the letter B here. But how big is the letter H when it comes to our vocabulary and the words that we use, like house and home and heart and hell? But you can see through the Chaldean, once again, not the, why it's such a special cipher, because it not just works on the numbers, but on phonetics and the shape of the letters. And you can see how God, Satan, and time all reduce down to the number 5. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. And this number 14 comes together to form the letter H. Absolutely magnificent, if you ask me. That's my opinion. And we have these words like house always wins. The house, time always wins. You've heard of that expression. The house always wins. If you're a gambler, the house. House is 26, which is going to give you the 8. H is the 8th letter in the English alphabet. Home is where the heart is. The heart, the heartland. This is a enneagram for earth. And you're in hell. It can be heaven. See all these words, how big are these nouns, these subjects, they become very big in our reality. What word can you make with the letter H? Leave your comment down below if you have another word that you think stands out. But this H, this is why home is the H, and it's very balanced. Well, because it's from the numbers 1 and 4. 1 and 4. 4 is the 4 blood types. This is you as the I. I am one of the 4 blood types. Even the 4 is a mirrored letter H. If I flip this upside down, it's the letter H, the lowercase h. You can see how big this is, folks. This is part of the letter H in the mirrored position. So I know this has a lot of merit in the code. You just got to be willing to look at this and consider what this is saying. And this is why the 5 is so big with these numerology expressions, and why God is Satan, because it's time. That's it. It runs time and it never stops. When people say time is an illusion, you could say this world's an illusion. Yeah, but it's pretty damn real to me. You're watching something. Is it an illusion? You could say that, but you can hear me talking. Is what you hearing, is that an illusion? Is what you seeing, is that an illusion? I just think that there's more to it than just saying, oh, it's an illusion. Because it's pretty real to me. We can say it's an illusion if we want to regurgitate that, but I think there's more to it than that. I think it's pretty real more than the illusion. So moving along into this number 14, which is the letter H, which through the Chaldean numerology is the number 5, and why Chaldean again is so special. And ladies and gentlemen, when you take the dial pad of your phone, you not only get Pandora's box and Saturn's magic square, but you can see what sits right in the middle of that cross. The number 5. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. The home. This is where the heart would be. If you put the Jesus character over there, the 5 is going to represent the heart. So it's the 25846 with the 0 at the bottom. Okay? When you add up those digits, 2 plus 5 plus 8 plus 4 plus 6, you're going to get 25. And 25 is tied to the words black sun. Okay? But clearly, ladies and gentlemen, the 5 is the big takeaway because it's tied to these words that we've already gone over. Capricorn, Father Time, Hotel California. You can check out at any time you like. Hotel California, hotel. 555. You're in time. You're a child of time. Born by an orgasm by the mushroom cloud. By an orgasm which is a explosion. This is how cells in the body operate, by ATP, which causes energy, which allows you to move around. Inside your car, in your pistons, in the combustion chamber, there are orgasms going on every single time the piston goes up and it merges with the air and the gas and the spark plug. That is an orgasm. Your engine has an orgasm. You can find it in so many different layers in our reality. That's why the 5. If you have a 5 birthday, if you have a 5 hearts, 5 diamonds, 5 of clubs, 5 of spades, if you have a life path number 5, you're the busiest people there is, because 5 represents being someone who runs around in time. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. It's so magical, ladies and gentlemen, when you scrape away all the programming and you look at it from the source code being letters, numbers, and symbols, it takes on a whole different meaning. So the 14 is the letter H, which becomes the 5, which is the center point of that cross. There's the sigil of Saturn. I know it's going to be a little, Saturn's magic square is going to be a little different, but it encompasses all of those 9 letters. And this is Pandora's box, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way to plus 9 is 45, and 45 is tied to the words Pandora's box. You're in it, which is time. And you're not getting out until you die, physically, that is. And we don't know what happens after that, okay? So to kind of get to the tail end of this presentation, I'm now going to show you the zodiac wheel, the astrological map for the Trinity test on July 16th, 1945. Now, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to show you that it was done at 5:29 a.m., on July 16th, 1945, just so and 1940, remember, 1945, 45 is Pandora's box, 45 is right here, 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way, and the 5 is in the middle. Okay, these very subtle layers, but are very, very important. And, you know, this is the astrological map. At 5:29 a.m., there are the celestial positions, and there are many, many big ones here to talk about. But I want to talk about the Pluto position first. Now, I have Pluto in both the 6th house and the 2nd house. Now, Pluto is in the 2nd house, or was. Why I have Pluto over here is because Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. Scorpio being in the 6th house. And there's a reason why I'm showing that. Because you see, Pluto, and this whole Trinity test, when you read about it, was a plutonium bomb. Plutonium. Okay? A plutonium bomb exploded on July 16th. So there's the plutonium in the 2nd house, 2 representing duality, and it's in the 4th zodiac sign of Cancer. Also with this trio, you had the sun here. The sun was at 0 degrees Cancer. The sun, the spirit, the igniter, Pluto, the underworld, the destroyer of worlds, and Mercury the messenger, all in the 2nd house, ruled being occupied by Cancer. Cancer being the 4th zodiac sign, and that is ruled by the moon. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to where's Cancer? Right here. Cancer is the operator of the 4th house. So now I'm just going to backtrack 2, and now I'm going to look at what's in the 4th house. Virgo, the 6th zodiac sign. 6, carbon, 666. Virgo's the largest constellation in the canopy. What do we have down here? Zeus, the mighty Zeus, the largest planet in the canopy. We have Chiron, the wound. We have his brother Neptune or Poseidon here. And we have the moon here. Why am I showing the moon here? What's the significance of the moon here? Well, the moon is in the 13th nakshatra called Hasta, which is working with the hands. That's what it means. It's in the IC position, which this is going to be the IC, and this is going to be the MC, the midheaven, who gets all the energy. As above, so below. So the so below is Zeus, Poseidon, and the moon with the Chiron, with the wound of Chiron, and it's going to blow up, and it's going to come up here in the 12th zodiac sign of Pisces. We're going to talk about that. But the moon's the big takeaway because the moon is in Hasta. And the moon is going to represent death. The 13th card in the tarot is death. Now I become death, says Oppenheimer. And the moon is the 18th card. And it was the Trinity test, which is 18. So the moon is tied to Trinity, the name of the test, and the moon is in the 13th nakshatra, which is death. And he says, now I become death. Are these mere coincidences? Was Oppenheimer sitting down with all the other people that were involved in this and making sure that the numerology and the tarot cards and the astrological map come out exactly this way so I can decode it as a decoder to show you the expressions of what the coding looks like? Ladies and gentlemen, we live in I don't care if someone knows some of these things. They don't know them all. That's because they don't need to know them all, because we live in a scripted reality. So going further with this, the reason why I have Pluto over here is because Virgo is the operator of the 6th house. So now we go from the 4th house to the 6th house, and we have Pluto here. So this is a system. Pluto is not here, but Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Mars just so happens to be right across the way in the 12th house, which is ruled by Pisces. And Pisces, we just locate where Pisces is at. It's in the midheaven position, in the as above right here. That's getting all the energy as this mushroom cloud, as this explosion starts at the bottom, and it goes up. And it fans out, and it forms this T, which is why you have all this energy here. You can see that the Mars, along with Venus, you have the masculine and feminine in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is the 2nd zodiac sign, so I come back down to the 2nd house, and we just start it back over, and here's Cancer with Pluto. Pluto being plutonium. And that's what this entire test was based on, a plutonium bomb. See how all this is in conjunction. We also have the expression of Rahu, the north node of the moon, considering that the moon was in the 13th nakshatra, which represents death. Now I become death. Trinity being 18, the moon card being 18, the moon being in the 13th nakshatra, the 13th card is the death card. This Rahu position was exactly in the same position as September 11th, 2001. Rahu, during that time, was exactly in this same position, Ardra, the 6th nakshatra, in the sign of Gemini. That's why the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, represented Gemini, which is why Rahu was designed to take them down through the desire of that. And then you have your Ketu in the 20th nakshatra. Remember, the word orgasm equals 20. This is how tightly woven numerology is with astrology. The word orgasm is 20. So the orgasm was starting here with Ketu, the south node of the moon, and the explosion here and the desire to blow it up right here. And you have Kronos here, right on the line of the ascendant, right when the first rays of the sun hasn't even made its entrance yet to the world. It's below the horizon here, 5:30 a.m. But of course, this is probably right. I would bet that you could probably see the sun. The sun was probably just coming up July 16th in New Mexico. You're probably going to see some light there. So light was just beginning to come up, and boom, just like that, you have Kronos, which is the timekeeper, time, father time, with the desire of Rahu to blow it up in the sign of Gemini, exactly the position that this was during the September 11th, 2001 event. Same exact nakshatra, Ardra being the god of death, the god of destruction, the howling god of destruction. This is how all this stuff looks, ladies and gentlemen. And this mushroom cloud I've placed over here again, the exact layers of astrology, Pisces being the 12th sign. And I will remind all of you that you see, the Trinity test was done on July 16th. The 16th card in the tarot is the Tower card. How about that? Tied to the word Sirius equals 16, so there's a tie into that. But folks, I mean, you couldn't have picked it on a better day, numerically tied to the tarot and the Tower card, the explosion here. And let's not forget that July 16th was the Queen of Clubs card. The Q. Remember what the Q was, right? The release of power, the O to the Q, the Queen. And the Queen of Clubs is the 25th card in the deck, just like the word Black Sun. So the Black Sun is right down there. It's the origin of anything, any explosion. If you light a stick of dynamite, the stick of dynamite is the queen. Because when the stick of dynamite blows up, it gives off an orgasm. It gives off offspring. It gives off an explosion of power. That's why you got created by an orgasm, ladies and gentlemen. You see? And it's the Q, the queen, found from the O, which is the power button before it gets pressed. The Black Sun is the Queen of Clubs, and the Queen of Clubs, through this expression, is the card for July 16th. Now, on top of that, when we do the numerology of this Trinity test, July 16th, 1945, you get the number 87. 7 plus 16 plus 19 plus 45, 87. This is going to give you the number 6. 8 plus 7 is 15, and it's reduced down to the number 6. I just go right back here. There it is, the desire of Rahu, wanting to make this thing happen right in the first house. The first house ruled by Mars. Mars is in the 12th house. The 12th house is up here at the midheaven position, which is where the final deliverance of that power is going to happen. And the 87, folks, you go right back to alchemy. And just like that, the only element on the periodic table which has a nuclear explosion, the mushroom cloud on it, is the 38th element called strontium. And it just so happens, coincidentally, of course, it's always coincidentally, that the average isotope is 87.62. Coincidentally, right? Strontium. Strontium is 87.62. 87 is going to be tied to francium. That's going to be 223, which is the mirror of the 322, which is tied to Lucifer. That's for a different story, but it's there. And the 38th card in the deck is the Queen of Diamonds. So we have yet another queen. Another queen tied to the 38. The Queen of Clubs tied to July 16th. Just let's be really transparent. Here's the cards of illumination. The typical boilerplate chart. Here's July. We're going to come down to the 16. There it is. The Queen of Clubs. Can't miss it. Whoops. There it is right there. July. There's the row 16. This is July. Just so we can be really sure. Just so you know I'm not playing around. So we have a queen here. And then we have a queen here. Found from the numerology of the total date of when this explosion happened. 2 queens. And remember what the queen is. It's the broken O. The Q is the deliverance of the orgasm. And this is an orgasm. The detonation of any explosion, nuclear, it's an orgasm. When you have sex and you have an orgasm, this is exactly what you're doing. You're a mini version of that. That's why it feels so good. That's why it can create an offspring. What do you think this does? There's more to it than just meets the eye here, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Mushroom Decoded. Would love to hear what you saw during this presentation. Keep your comments coming. Just keep them cordial. You don't have to agree with everything I say, but you can see the symbols are just so undeniable and they're so magical, especially the O and the Q and it being tied to the game master and time and all that stuff right there. So next time you do mushrooms, next time you take those magic mushrooms and you go into the sacred geometry world and you start to see shapes and patterns, and it's a fractal. It's a fractal. And the next time you have sex and you bust one, it's a fractal. Okay? It's a fractal. And just how this reality works. And the game needs players, so it's encouraging you to bust a nut because it needs another player to enter into. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality. Until next time, we will see you later.